10 things Chinese retirees do with money. While most American retirees are cutting coupons, worrying about medical bills, and wondering if their savings will last, Chinese retirees are quietly building wealth, supporting multiple generations, and living comfortably on what seems like much less money. How is this possible? The difference isn't income levels or government benefits. It's a completely different philosophy about money that most Americans have never learned. Chinese retirees think about money as a tool for family prosperity across generations, not just personal comfort during their final years. I discovered this when I studied retirement strategies across different cultures and was shocked by what I found. While American retirees often struggle financially despite decades of 401k contributions, Chinese retirees use simple strategies that create security, growth, and family wealth simultaneously. Today, I'm going to share 10 money strategies that Chinese retirees use to not only survive retirement, but thrive during it, while building legacy wealth for their families. These time-tested approaches can transform your retirement from a period of financial anxiety into a period of financial abundance. If you're approaching retirement or want to learn wisdom that creates financial security instead of financial stress, hit that subscribe button, type wisdom in the comments, and let's dive into the first strategy that completely changes how you think about retirement money. Strategy number 1. Treat retirement as a new business phase, not ending. Most American retirees see retirement as the end of their productive years, time to stop earning, start spending, and hope their savings last until they die. Chinese retirees see retirement as a new business phase, where experience, wisdom, and freed-up time create opportunities to build wealth differently than before. The first strategy is reframing retirement from a spending phase to an optimizing phase. Instead of asking, "How do I make my money last?" ask, "How can I make my money work better now that I have time to manage it properly?" This mindset shift transforms retirement from financial decline to financial renaissance. King Solomon didn't retire from wisdom. He used his later years to compile and share the knowledge that created his legendary wealth. Chinese culture values elder wisdom in business decisions, seeing retirement as when people become most valuable advisors and strategic thinkers, not when they become financial burdens. Use your retirement time to actively manage investments instead of letting them run on autopilot. Research opportunities you never had time for during your working years. Consider consulting in your expertise area, starting a small business, or teaching skills you've developed. Many retirees discover they can earn more per hour consulting than they ever made as employees. A retired engineer named Frank started consulting 10 hours weekly at $150 hourly, earning $78,000 annually, more than many full-time workers. His decades of experience made him incredibly valuable for short-term projects. Frank learned that retirement expertise often pays better than career labor. There was a retired teacher named Dorothy who turned her gardening hobby into a small plant business, earning $2,000 monthly selling seedlings and garden advice. Her retirement hobby generated more income than her pension while keeping her active and engaged. Dorothy discovered that retirement time plus accumulated skills equals new earning potential. When you treat retirement as a new opportunity phase instead of an ending phase, you continue building wealth instead of just spending it down. Strategy number 2. Live in multi-generational financial ecosystems. American retirees often live in age-segregated communities, handling all their own expenses and gradually depleting their resources, while family members struggle with their own financial challenges separately. Chinese retirees integrate their finances with family members to create mutual benefit systems. The second strategy is building multi-generational financial partnerships, where everyone benefits from shared resources and collective decision-making. This doesn't mean dependence, it means strategic cooperation that makes everyone stronger financially. The Bible teaches about Ruth and Naomi, creating mutual support that benefited both generations. Ruth's energy combined with Naomi's wisdom created prosperity neither could achieve alone. Multi-generational cooperation leverages different strengths: youthful energy with elder wisdom, current earning power with accumulated assets. Consider arrangements where you help with grandchildren's education costs in exchange for help with technology, transportation, or home maintenance. Pool resources for bulk purchasing, shared housing arrangements, or family investment opportunities. Your retirement assets combined with younger family members' earning power creates opportunities neither generation could access alone. A retired couple named Bob and Mary moved into a duplex with their daughter's family. They split the mortgage payment, share utilities, and help with childcare while the daughter helps with technology and driving. This arrangement saved both generations $15,000 annually while improving the quality of life for everyone. There was a retired accountant named George who managed his family's investments and tax planning in exchange for help with home maintenance and transportation. His financial expertise saved the family thousands annually while keeping him mentally engaged and financially valuable. George learned that skills don't retire even when paychecks do. Multi-generational financial cooperation creates security and prosperity that individual financial planning cannot achieve. If you've been planning retirement as an individual financial challenge instead of a family opportunity, and this multi-generational approach makes sense to you, pause and comment 1 below. If you're already thinking family-focused financially or need different retirement strategies, comment 2 so I know what to focus on in future videos. Now let's dive into strategy 3 that protects wealth from inflation and market crashes. Strategy number 3, focus on asset preservation, not growth speculation. Most American retirees chase growth investments, hoping to beat inflation, often taking unnecessary risks with money they can't afford to lose. They put retirement funds in aggressive stock portfolios or risky investments, then panic during market downturns. Chinese retirees prioritize preserving what they have over gambling for what they might gain. The third strategy is shifting focus from growth speculation to asset preservation through diversified, conservative investments that protect purchasing power without risking principal. This means accepting modest returns in exchange for security and stability that lets you sleep well at night. The parable of the wise and foolish builders teaches about solid foundations versus shaky ground. Chinese retirees build retirement security on solid asset classes, real estate, dividend stocks, bonds, and some precious metals, rather than speculative investments that might collapse during the storms of market volatility. Allocate retirement funds across asset classes that preserve value over time. 40% in dividend-paying stocks, 30% in bonds or CDs, 20% in real estate or REITs, and 10% in gold or precious metals. Focus on investments that generate income rather than just hoping for price appreciation. Prioritize companies and assets that have survived multiple economic cycles. A retired nurse named Patricia kept 60% of her portfolio in conservative dividend stocks and bonds instead of chasing growth stocks like her friends. During the 2022 market crash, her conservative approach lost only 8%, while growth portfolios dropped 30 to 40%. Her preservation strategy protected $180,000 in retirement savings from major losses. There was a retired mechanic named Tom who put half his retirement funds in rental real estate and half in conservative investments. While stock markets fluctuated wildly, his rental income provided steady cash flow and his property values appreciated gradually. Tom learned that boring investments create secure retirement income. Asset preservation creates peace of mind that allows you to enjoy retirement instead of worrying about market volatility, destroying your financial security. Strategy number 4. Minimize healthcare costs through prevention and planning. American retirees often face devastating healthcare costs that destroy retirement savings, spending $300,000 on medical expenses during retirement while reactive treating health problems. Chinese retirees invest heavily in prevention and have systems for managing healthcare costs before they become financial emergencies. The fourth strategy is treating healthcare as a strategic investment rather than an unavoidable expense. This means investing in preventive care, building relationships with healthcare providers, and creating systems that minimize both health problems and healthcare costs throughout retirement. Proverbs teaches, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." Chinese medicine emphasizes preventing illness rather than just treating symptoms. This preventive approach saves enormous money over time because preventing problems costs far less than treating advanced conditions. Invest in regular preventive care, dental maintenance, vision care, and fitness activities that prevent expensive health problems later. Research Medicare supplement options thoroughly to avoid surprise medical bills. Consider concierge medicine or health-sharing plans that provide better care at lower total costs. Build relationships with healthcare providers who focus on prevention rather than just treatment. A retired teacher named Helen spent $2,000 annually on preventive care, nutrition, and fitness, instead of waiting for health problems. At age 75, her proactive approach had saved over $50,000 in medical costs, compared to reactive friends who develop preventable conditions. Helen's prevention investment paid 25-to-1 returns. There was a retired businessman named Carl, who researched Medicare options thoroughly and chose plans that covered his specific health needs. His strategic healthcare planning saved $15,000 annually in out-of-pocket costs, compared to friends who chose plans randomly. Carl learned that healthcare planning is as important as investment planning. When you treat healthcare as a strategic investment rather than an unavoidable expense, you protect your retirement savings from medical financial disasters. Strategy number 5. Optimize housing to maximize cash flow. Most American retirees stay in large family homes they no longer need, paying high property taxes, maintenance, and utility costs that drain retirement savings. They treat their home as an emotional attachment rather than a financial asset that should be optimized for retirement cash flow. The 5th strategy is treating your home as a financial tool that should generate cash flow or reduce expenses during retirement. This might mean downsizing, relocating to lower-cost areas, house hacking through rentals, or using home equity strategically to fund retirement needs. Jesus taught about using resources wisely rather than letting them sit idle. The parable of the talents shows that assets should be productive, not buried. Your home equity represents potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be working for you instead of just sitting there while you pay ongoing costs. Calculate your total housing costs, including taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. If these exceed 25% of retirement income, consider downsizing or relocating. Explore house hacking by renting rooms to generate income. Consider relocating to areas with lower costs but similar quality of life. Use a reverse mortgage strategically if you want to stay in your home but need additional income. A retired couple named Jim and Susan sold their $400,000 family home and bought a $200,000 condo in a lower-cost state. The $200,000 difference, invested at 6%, generates $12,000 annually. Plus, they save $8,000 yearly in property taxes and maintenance. Their housing optimization created $20,000 additional retirement income. There was a retired teacher named Margaret who rented 2 bedrooms in her large home to graduate students for $1,200 monthly. This $14,400 annual income covered her property taxes and utilities while providing companionship and security. Margaret learned that her home could generate income instead of just consuming it. When you optimize housing for cash flow instead of emotion, you transform your biggest expense into a source of retirement income. Strategy number 6, create multiple small income streams instead of relying on pensions. American retirees often depend on 1 or 2 major income sources: Social Security and perhaps a pension or 401k withdrawals. When these sources face cuts or problems, retirement security collapses. Chinese retirees create multiple small income streams that provide stability through diversification. The 6th strategy is building 5 to 7 small income streams that together provide retirement security without depending entirely on any single source. This creates resilience because if one stream disappears, the others continue flowing while you replace or repair the broken stream. Ecclesiastes teaches about casting bread upon many waters because you don't know which efforts will succeed. Multiple income streams protect against single points of failure while providing opportunities for growth and adaptation as circumstances change during retirement. Develop income streams from dividends, rental properties, part-time consulting, small business activities, royalties, peer-to-peer lending, and government benefits. Aim for each stream to provide 500 to 2,000 monthly, rather than depending on one large source. Monitor and adjust streams regularly to maintain and grow total income. A retired accountant named Paul created 6 income streams: Social Security, $1,800, dividend stocks, $800, rental property, tax preparation services, $600, pension, $900, and part-time bookkeeping, $700. His diversified approach generates $6,000 monthly with security that no single income source could provide. There was a retired nurse named Linda who built income from Social Security, retirement accounts, rental income from a duplex investment, selling crafts online, and part-time patient advocacy consulting. Her 5 streams total $4,200 monthly, with a backup if any individual stream faces problems. Linda learned that multiple small streams create bigger rivers than single large sources. Multiple income streams provide security, flexibility, and growth potential that single-source retirement income cannot match. Strategy number 7. Invest in inflation-resistant assets. Most American retirees park their money in savings accounts, CDs, and bonds that lose purchasing power to inflation over time. A 3% annual inflation rate cuts your money's buying power in half every 23 years. Meaning retirement savings become worth less and less as you age. The 7th strategy is allocating a significant portion of retirement assets to inflation-resistant investments that maintain or increase purchasing power over time. This means owning assets that rise in value with inflation rather than losing value to it. The ancient Israelites stored grain during good years to maintain purchasing power during bad years. Joseph's strategy of accumulating real assets instead of just currency saved Egypt during the 7 years of famine. Real assets, land, precious metals, productive businesses, maintain value when currency loses purchasing power. Allocate 30 to 40% of retirement assets to inflation hedges: real estate, precious metals, dividend-growing stocks, and treasury inflation-protected securities. Tips: focus on companies that can raise prices with inflation. Utilities, consumer staples, and businesses with pricing power. Avoid long-term fixed-rate bonds that lose value when inflation rises. A retired engineer named Robert allocated 35% of his portfolio to real estate, gold, and inflation-protected bonds when inflation was low. When inflation spiked to 8% in 2022, his inflation hedges gained value, while his friends' bond portfolios lost 15 to 20%. Robert's strategic allocation preserved $75,000 in purchasing power. There was a retired business owner named Joyce who bought rental properties and dividend-growing stocks instead of keeping money in CDs. Over 15 years, her rental income doubled with inflation, while CD returns stayed flat. Joyce's inflation strategy maintained her lifestyle, while fixed-income friends saw their purchasing power erode. When you own inflation-resistant assets instead of inflation-vulnerable ones, you maintain purchasing power throughout retirement instead of watching it gradually disappear. Strategy number 8. Practice strategic frugality, not poverty mindset. Many American retirees either spend recklessly, assuming their money will last forever, or live in a poverty mindset, cutting every possible expense regardless of the impact on their quality of life. Chinese retirees practice strategic frugality, spending generously on things that matter, while eliminating waste on things that don't. The 8th strategy is optimizing spending for maximum life satisfaction per dollar, rather than either unrestricted spending or blanket cost cutting. This means identifying what truly enhances your retirement experience and eliminating expenses that provide little value. King Solomon wrote of there being a time for everything, including a time to spend and a time to save. Strategic frugality means understanding the difference between valuable expenses that enhance life and wasteful expenses that drain resources without providing corresponding benefits. Track your spending for 3 months and categorize every expense by how much satisfaction it provides. Eliminate or reduce low satisfaction expenses, like subscriptions you rarely use, brand name products where generics work equally well, and impulse purchases. Increase spending on high satisfaction categories like health, relationships, and meaningful experiences. A retired teacher named Helen cut $400 monthly in wasteful spending, unused gym memberships, premium cable channels, and impulse shopping. she redirected that money toward travel and hobbies she'd always wanted to pursue. Her strategic frugality improved her retirement experience while reducing costs. There was a retired accountant named Mike who analyzed every expense like a business investment. He spent more on quality tools and experiences that brought lasting satisfaction, but eliminated recurring expenses that provided little value. Mike's strategic approach freed up $6,000 annually from meaningful retirement activities. Strategic frugality maximizes retirement satisfaction per dollar spent, while a poverty mindset minimizes both spending and satisfaction unnecessarily. Strategy number 9. Build legacy wealth instead of spending down principal. Most American retirees plan to spend down their savings during retirement, aiming to die with zero and viewing their accumulated wealth as something to consume rather than preserve. Chinese retirees focus on living off investment income while preserving principal to pass generational wealth to family members. The 9th strategy is structuring retirement finances to live off investment returns while preserving and growing the principal for legacy purposes. This creates sustainable income that never runs out while building family wealth across generations instead of depleting it. The parable of the talents teaches about multiplication rather than the consumption of resources. The wise servants didn't spend their talents, but invested them to create more. Chinese culture emphasizes building wealth that benefits multiple generations rather than just personal consumption during retirement years. Structure your portfolio to generate 4 to 5% annual income through dividends, interest, and rental returns, while keeping the principal intact and growing. Focus on dividend-growing stocks, rental properties, and bonds that provide income without requiring you to sell assets. Live on the income while reinvesting any excess to grow the principal over time. A retired professor named William built a $800,000 portfolio that generates $32,000 annually in dividends and interest. He lives comfortably on this income while the principal continues growing through reinvestment and appreciation. After 10 years, his legacy approach has grown his wealth to $1.1 million while providing steady retirement income. There was a retired nurse named Barbara who focused on building a portfolio of rental properties that generate $3,000 monthly income. She lives on the rental income while the properties appreciate in value and provide tax benefits. Barbara's legacy approach creates income for life while building real estate wealth for her children. Legacy thinking creates permanent income streams and generational wealth instead of temporary retirement comfort followed by financial depletion. Strategy number 10. Maintain mental and financial flexibility. Many American retirees create rigid financial plans and refuse to adapt when circumstances change, leading to financial stress when markets shift, health needs change, or family situations evolve. Chinese retirees maintain flexibility to adjust strategies as conditions change throughout retirement. The 10th strategy is building flexibility into retirement finances that allows you to adapt to changing health needs, market conditions, family circumstances, and personal preferences without financial crisis or major lifestyle disruptions. The Book of Ecclesiastes teaches that there's a time for everything, including times to be conservative and times to be aggressive, times to spend and times to save, times to help family and times to focus on personal needs. Flexibility allows you to respond appropriately to different seasons of retirement. Keep 20% of retirement assets in liquid investments that can be accessed quickly for opportunities or emergencies. Maintain multiple income streams so you're not dependent on any single source. Build relationships and skills that provide options if circumstances change. Review and adjust your strategy annually rather than setting rigid rules. A retired businessman named Charles kept his finances flexible when his wife developed dementia, requiring expensive care. Because he maintained liquid assets and multiple income streams, he could adapt to the $5,000 monthly care costs without a financial crisis. His flexibility preserved both the quality of care and financial security. There was a retired teacher named Susan who maintained flexible housing arrangements that allowed her to move closer to family when grandchildren were born, then relocate to a warmer climate for health reasons. Her financial flexibility enabled lifestyle choices that rigid planning couldn't accommodate. Susan learned that flexibility is worth more than perfect optimization. Financial flexibility during retirement provides security and options that rigid planning cannot offer when life circumstances inevitably change. So there you have it. 10 strategies that Chinese retirees use to thrive financially, while American retirees often struggle despite similar starting resources. Treat retirement as a new business phase. Build multi-generational financial cooperation. Preserve assets over speculation. Prevent healthcare costs. Optimize housing for cash flow. Create multiple income streams. Invest in inflation resistance. Practice strategic frugality. Build legacy wealth and maintain flexibility. These aren't just cultural differences. They're practical strategies that any American can adopt immediately to transform retirement from a period of financial decline into a period of financial optimization and legacy building. But here's the truth: most people approaching retirement don't want to hear. These strategies only work if you start implementing them before you need them. Retirement financial success is built during the decades before retirement, not after you stop working. Don't wait until retirement to start thinking like Chinese retirees think. Pick one strategy from today's video and begin implementing it this month. Maybe you'll start building multiple income streams. Maybe you'll optimize your housing situation. Maybe you'll shift from growth speculation to asset preservation. Remember, retirement should be your financial victory lap, not your financial funeral. When you think like Chinese retirees think, you create retirement security and family legacy instead of retirement anxiety and financial depletion. If these strategies opened your eyes to new retirement possibilities, share this video with someone who needs to rethink their retirement approach. Hit that like button, subscribe for more wisdom that creates financial security instead of financial stress, and comment below with which Chinese retirement strategy you're going to start implementing this month. Your retirement should be your most financially prosperous years, not your most financially fearful ones.